Diesel shortage leaves 25 days left of supply as demand surges. Diesel stockpiles in the U.S. are reportedly at their lowest point since 2008, with only enough fuel for a 25-day supply. According to a recent report from Bloomberg, demand is also said to be at highest point since, of course, 2007. This is a huge story, and of course, it's something we talked about previously. What is going on? My name is Adam, aka Marf, and this is Marfoogle News. Just to go back through the rest of this article, it says creating a dangerous supply and demand combination that's causing spikes in pricing. The B administration called the nationwide diesel supply unacceptably low and is looking at all options to build up the national supply to help reduce prices. Just want to point out, too, this is probably very good for these electric semi-trucks that Elon is putting out. It says, according to the U.S. Energy Information Administration, or the EIA, the average price of diesel is at $5.35 per gallon. It says that's an increase of $1.67 per gallon compared to this time last year. The area getting hit the hardest is New England, where people burn diesel fuel for heat more than anywhere else in the country. So they are actually using this for their actual energy. It says their stockpiles of diesel fuel are a third of what they normally are at this time of the year. However, the highest cost of diesel fuel is in California, where the average cost is almost $6.50 per gallon, an increase of almost $2 per gallon over this time last year. We're going to talk about this and much, much more on Marfoogle News. Tonight, we have a ton to go over. Every current event that you can think of is going to be on the show. We'll be right back right after this. Nothing in this show should be considered legal, medical, or financial advice. The views of the callers can differ considerably and do not necessarily reflect my opinion, Dex's opinion, or anyone else who works with the show. You should always do your own research and consult with professionals. The internet is full of fake news, so please take everything with a grain of salt. If you have not already, it helps us out if you end up going through any of our affiliates, and it helps you out if you end up protecting yourself against cybercrime. NordVPN is one of the best and one of the easiest to use. If you do not have a virtual private network, it protects your IP address, which is your online identity, which actually connects to your real address and everything else. It also connects to you. If you know anything about how they are data logging and basically getting your profiles down, you can prevent that by having a VPN. Nord is, again, one of the easiest. Download it. It's like an on switch and off switch. All you have to do. Go to marfooglenews.com/VPN. Not only will you get a giant discount on this, but you will also be helping us. I appreciate your support, and I appreciate everyone that goes through any of our affiliates. Can't say thank you enough. All right, what is going on, guys? It is Adam, aka Marf, and this is Marfoogle News. We have a ton to go over in a short amount of time, so remember, you can always go over to marfooglenews.com and not only sign up for our email alerts, but you can also get, of course, our notifications. If you're not getting notifications from different platforms, make sure to go over there. You will guaranteed get a notification. And then also over there, you will find that we have a full bibliography of every single article, tweet, video, picture, document that we are going to show you here. That way you have a bibliography for every source that we are using. That way you can check our work. And again, you can go back retrospectively and read the article, or you can follow along. If you have a second tablet or a device, you can actually follow along. And if I miss something live, you can call me out in the chat. On this, you'll see that it's all done very easily organized by thumbnail. You'll look for today's thumbnail, heading to the Arctic. This isn't a visit to Santa. 25 days left, referencing that diesel story. Again, that is pretty extreme. Just to let you know, we'll talk about that here in a second. But then once you go to the website, you'll see every single article is there for your use, and it is archived. So you can actually search all of our previous shows. And if you remember me saying something about a certain story, you can actually use the search bar and type in keywords and find any of the previous stories that we covered. So if you are doing research on your own video, you can actually use that as well. And then the overflow at the very bottom, there is all sorts of stuff that we could not fit into a 2-hour time period. That is all down at the bottom. On the right side, all of our affiliates. If you do miss us a product, all of those products and all of those boxes over there basically go to support our independent media. We are independent. We are run basically off of you guys. So thank you, everybody that does go purchase through us. You get something at a discount, and you're helping us at the same time. Let's bring in my co-internet brother, Dex James. What is going on, and how are you doing tonight?
Well, hello, Adam, and hello, Foogle fam. I am doing just fine.
So, Dex, I did want to get your opinion on the diesel, but first, I did want to remind people. So, I've had a couple people lately on Twitter. I said something about how much information was coming out that was inaccurate or something, and I always get these people that say, "Oh, well, you're the pot calling the kettle black, and you're misinfo all over the place." And Texas Rob and some others saw this. Every single time I call this out and I say, "Hey, tell me one thing I've misled you on, and I will, at the beginning of the show, take a bow, correct it, and say I bow to whoever is saying this." We're that confident, and the reason why is because we do our due diligence before every single show. So we may give our opinions on certain things, and opinions are opinions, but as far as the facts, if we put something out, we have a source to it, and that is because we believe you should have something to go to, not just, I heard this through this or this or this. And if we are telling you something we've heard through somebody, we make sure to clarify that. That way you know that it is hearsay rather than, oh yeah, something's going to happen on the 19th. Oh, I already know. It's confirmed through a really good source. We make sure to back it up. So, I've given this same challenge to every single person, and then that person is like the fourth person that's done this, and then just blocks me, doesn't respond, doesn't say it. So, for whoever that was that blocked me, tell me one thing I've misled you on purposely, and I will take a bow at the beginning of the show. And that's how confident we are, and that's not because we think we're special or anything. It's because we take a lot of time, and that's the time that people don't see. They see the 2-hour show. They don't see the time beforehand. Dex and I do a really, really thorough job of trying to do this. Dex always verifies things as well. If we're bringing in stories together, we make sure to go back and try to check it. So that's to make you guys feel good about coming here. And more people are saying that they trust. I've seen people say that they're waiting for us to cover something because they want to know if it's true or not. So thank you. I appreciate those comments, and I appreciate you going all over the internet saying, hey, I'll wait until this happens. So thank you, and thank you, and thank you. All right, Dex, as far as the diesel, this was a huge story. It popped up, and 25 days left. If this is true, of course, it's a huge deal.
Well, certainly. And, it definitely is coming at a opportune time with the event right around the corner in a couple weeks. But I think the bigger picture here is there's also a backup to this in the sense that we've seen our own administration scrambling with other nations trying to increase production and do other things so that we can bring in more of this. And it's a shame that we have depleted our own storage and we have depleted our own capacity for creating this type of fuel and other gas related products for other various reasons why they do that. I'm not going to go into that part of it, but there was a time when this was never an issue. We had plenty from our own supplies. So it's kind of a shame that we're here now. But these things are often used as a sort of a calling card, so to speak, or a cast out to draw attention to something. So we'll have to see if this is really going to be an event, or if it's really just a whole bunch of hubbub that they're trying, that one side or the other is trying to make around this. Certainly the numbers don't lie in the sense that if there's only a 25-day supply, but the real question is how much of that throughput of production there really is. So can they keep up with demand or not?
And that's the big question, and we'll be following it, and we'll cover it as it goes along. I'm sure something will get pulled out of a hat, but there is a bigger picture as far as, we take a lot of things for granted, that there could be a major supply chain disaster that completely destroys not only our economy, but how we actually run everything that we do. As far as the areas that are dependent on diesel for their actual heat, this is winter. Here in the Northwest, it went from like summer and even late summer. In October, we had an 80-degree day, and within one day, we had like a 30-degree day. It was insane. It felt like it was 30 with the wind chill. But now it definitely feels like winter. It's like, when you finally hit that season, or at least here, it feels like winter, and it is already feeling like, Halloween weather. So, and it should be, but again, it was late because of all this weird weather stuff that's been going on. Dex, go ahead.
Yeah, one other opinion on it. If you think of, and maybe this kind of would be a theme for a lot of the stuff we'll talk about tonight and a lot of the things we have talked about, think about the programming that would go on to a population to get them prepared for going into, say, something like a major conflict. In other words, if this does happen, if it actually does run out and we can't run our trucks and then we have all sorts of crisis, well, who's to blame? Well, in this article, and as they're reporting everywhere, Vlad is to blame. When you look at so we have plenty of natural gas here, so we're not going to have a heating problem, but we'll have a trucking problem, right? Or we'll have a supply problem. But over in Europe, they're going to have a heating problem. So everyone there is going to be absolutely upset with the power turned off because the gas is not available to run the power plants, with the heating turned off because there's not enough gas to go around, and they're all freezing in the middle of winter. So, if this goes down as part of a strategy of communication, then you got people mad about one thing, you got people mad about another. And when we start to look about some of the things that we'll talk about later tonight, about even with Xi and some of the things that we're starting to do, and you're starting to pick up in the news and they're saying and reporting all these things, is this sort of a way to get people ready to feel like they want to be, there's this bad thing happening and we need to support and get behind everybody to solve this problem, right? So it's either that or, the whole New Deal that they're working on that has that color in it.
It's green. And then the DOJ outlines charges against 13 Chinese nationals accused of U.S. influence campaigns. We have covered from the kind of outset of the rumors of these police stations being opened all around the world in over 30 countries. Well, actually, they say 30 countries, hundreds of locations. And again, there was a map we put up that Able Bodied was able to find, which great job doing the research and finding that piece. That was a couple nights ago. That actually has all of the locations of these police stations, which made news headlines only when GOP lawmakers brought up that, why did one pop up in New York? It was kind of freaky. And they say their official reason, or Xi's reason, is that they're helping people with their paperwork. The narrative other than that, and what the suspicion is that these people are there, these police officers are there to coerce any kind of Xi national back to China. And if they're in trouble, or if they're running from the country, or if they are, doing something they don't like, they will try to get them or threaten them to get them to go back to Xi's country. A lot of people, including myself, is an opinion that these are set up in all of these different countries, which again, once we looked at it, it was almost all allied countries. Basically, they're not their allies, but our allies. All of these could be, spy stations. And that's a question that should be asked because of where they are. They're not in a lot of their allies' countries. They're in ours. So what the heck is up with that? But as far as that goes, maybe it's because their allies, they'll just call them and say, hey, send this guy back. Maybe that's why. I don't know. But when this happened, obviously we've followed that there's more and more coming out. It says the Justice Department officials unsealed charges Monday against 13 Xi's country's operatives. It says involved in 3 separate influence campaigns, including 2 intelligence officers accused in a brazen attempt to obstruct a federal criminal investigation into the Chinese-based telecommunications company Huawei. Makes sense. And by the way, if you haven't followed this, and if you're new, Huawei, DJI, TikTok, and all of these other companies are getting questioned because our government, or part of our government, thinks that they are using these companies to spy on people. They are using these companies to steal information. That is at least what the claim is. And many people believe those claims. It says the obstruction case, federal authorities said, represented a stunning attempted intervention in the U.S. criminal justice system in which the suspects, Dong He, also known as Gu Shan He, and Zheng Wang, also known as Zhen Wang, allegedly led an effort to steal files and other information from the U.S. Attorney's Office in Brooklyn, New York, which just happens to have one of these police stations, right? So just put this together here. There's these stations, and then there's people that are just happen to be trying to steal and grab information. What is that called? I think it's called spying or espionage or whatever you want to call it. If it quacks like a duck, if it looks like a duck, it's probably an agent. It says from the U.S. Attorney's Office in Brooklyn, New York, related to the ongoing federal criminal investigation and the prosecution of Huawei, the huge phone company, which, again, at one point, it was on track to start beating Samsung and other huge companies because they were selling a ton of phones. I mean, like, it was, the numbers were up there. Dex, what do you think about this as far as now there's confirmation, or at least more confirmation, that some of these nationals are doing these things? Obviously, that's what we've been thinking.
Well, I asked the question, why now? This is, remember, the very beginning of this, officials unsealed the charges. So they chose now to unseal them. They didn't have to. They could have waited a month. They could have waited a year. They could have done it a year ago, right? They chose now to do it. And I kind of go back to this notion that we've seen, like you said, we already reported on them bringing charges on other people related to Xi. Like 3 or 4 times we've reported this. So it's like all of a sudden there's this media blitz around, Xi specifically in the country, and all of these types of activities happening here. So like, why are they wanting to bring this to the forefront? And I think I know why. That's my opinion. I said it earlier, but that's what I think. When I listen to this, it's like, yeah, this has been this is a long going case. I mean, they have detained the person from Huawei ages ago in Canada. This stuff's old, but they released it today.
Yeah, why now? That's a really good question. Thank you, Dane Juris. I appreciate your support. Thank you for before the show even started. I think that's European. I think that's. What part of Europe are you in? Is that the UK? And then Kokomo Joe, thank you for your support for the super sticker. G10, thank you for your support as well. It looks like you did a super chat, but you didn't leave any comments. Just so you know, I'm pretty sure you do. You can write something there or send a message to me or whatever. Thank you, Adam, Dex, and Mods. Much love to the Fugel fam. Mir504, thank you so much for supporting. All right. So getting back into it, what do you think about the Huawei situation? What do you think about these 13 nationals? Let me know in the comments down below. And then expel China. UK protesters rally against China after assault on Hong Konger in Manchester consulate. So we followed this, and now it's getting into the point where there are protests around the world. This is a week after Hong Kong national was assaulted at the Chinese consulate in Manchester, England. Hundreds in the UK gathered on separate local protests to denounce Xi and his country and demand freedom for Hong Kong. The Manchester protest, titled "Say No to China," took place to St. Peter's Square at around 4 p.m. on Sunday, and then the Manchester Evening News reported that the event began with playing of "God Save the King" outside the Central Library, followed by "Glory to Hong Kong." Over the next 2 hours, various speakers came forward to voice their support for Hong Kong's independence from Xi's country. Attendees reportedly carried signs with phrases such as "Expel China" and "Free Hong Kong," and even "Hang Xi Jinping." Pretty big one right there. What do you bet that these people are probably on some sort of list, and there's a few people standing in the crowds going click, 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 and possibly going back to their police station, right? Dex, we actually said that last week that there was going to be protests after what was going on. We knew that there was going to be more, especially after there was all sorts of stories revolving around how in China, not in Hong Kong, they did that rare protest where they put the signs up on the bridge, and Xi and the police basically took it down almost immediately. A lot of people responded to that, and then a lot of Hong Kong people spoke out. Hong Kong is no longer, it got taken back in and absorbed back in very quickly. That was also unexpected. Dex, do you think there's a chance that they'll ever be free again? I don't really think so.
It doesn't look that way. I mean, Xi just claimed his power again, and this again this isn't another country. This is in the UK, right? So our allies, just like we see here in the US, we're seeing these stories from our allies building this sentiment, right? This public sentiment against things that are happening in Xi's country. So I'm not trying to harp on the opinion I had earlier, but I just sort of look at this and think about that. And then also back to your original question, will they ever be free again? No, they're not. They have built this massive economy, this massive machine, so to speak, around their CCP. So it's not, I don't see that changing anytime soon, ever.
Remember when they went in and Hong Kong was supposed to be absorbed into Xi's country, but it was supposed to be in, it was going to be years or decades down the line. They ended up doing it early. Hong Kong is a money machine. There's a lot of money coming out of it. And same with Taiwan. That's why I don't think it's going to take long for them to say, okay, well, Hong Kong has now started making us just absolute crazy amounts of money. Taiwan can do the same. Xi has not been shameful about, earning money any way possible. Look at what their country does. They basically pay peanuts, to people to produce stuff for companies all over the world, and they are making a killing from it. That's why they are number 2. And again, we don't truly know. I think that there's other stuff going on. People say that they're financially collapsing. One thing that I was talking to my sister with the other day is that it's, even if they financially collapse, it's their people that are financially going to be broke. The government takes everything. They don't care if their people, collapse, or those small businesses, because they have been filtering all of the money up to the top of the pyramid for this entire time. Since 1979, when they opened up to capitalism, even those rich people, the people they let have companies and build them to these giant companies, they're directly connected with the government. And if they stepped out of line, then they lose their company. We've seen billionaires, close to trillionaires over there. These people have had their money taken like that. There's been celebrities that have basically, worse than cancel culture. They'll say they have, $220 billion or something. They'll say, well, we're going to fine you for, jaywalking for $219 billion and $999 million. They'll leave them with $1. So this is only going to get worse over there, and that also is going to have reverberations around the planet. And then the U.S. Coast Guard's biggest ship made a rare trip to the North Pole amid warnings about Russian and Chinese moves in the Arctic. We have covered all of the rumors and official news that have come out of the Arctic. Of course, Vlad has not quadrupled, not quintupled, times 12 the size of his bases in the Arctic, and it just keeps getting bigger. They keep expanding. They're doing a lot up there. One thing that you have to remember about the Russian military is they do a lot of cold military exercises. They are actually, in a bunch of parts of Russia, they are actually a whole lot better in the cold. So people are actually thinking about that as far as the logistics go to the conflict and where it's going in the next couple months. They actually have done a ton of practice, especially a lot of their really elite crews. They are really, really good in even sub-zero temperatures. So when it gets cold, they are really good. But as far as the Arctic, strategically, this is geographically an amazing, amazing area. If you are going to do some sort of, world takeover or even an invasion or a WW3, you would want to have these waterways. You would want to have these paths and these shortcuts through the Arctic. Dex, so this is obviously they're going up there to see what's going on, I'm guessing. And then also they are probably doing stuff themselves, and a lot of it's going to be secret and classified.
Well, and I think it's also kind of not necessarily a first, but it is a big deal, a single ship alone. And it was a very large ship that went there. And so it went unaccompanied. I think it's been done a few times before, but not that often. So it's kind of a major accomplishment to make it all the way there through the ice, right? Because you've got to break through quite a bit to get there. So on one hand, it's that, but on the other hand, why are they going there? It's not, they don't just do things to do things. They do things to drill for it, to practice for it. Why do they need to get there? What is this exercise, if you want to call it that, for? I mean, it wouldn't be the Coast Guard going there just to accomplish it. That's usually someone else. It's, a group from a college or something that's, put together a research team that's trying to find their way there, right? It's, so this is, there's a lot behind this, and all the information that we have talked about the investment that Vlad has made, which is significant by putting a lot of bases and equipment on the Arctic ice up there. And then recently Xi trying to do the same just makes, to me, total sense that this has everything to do with a drill, in the sense of how far can they get through a significant amount of ice like that, and how well does this ship perform, because they may need to do something like this for the future, in the not too distant future.
And I want to read an important part here. It says perceptions of an icebreaker gap have been a major worry, with U.S. officials warning that the U.S.'s two aging vessels are a far cry from the Russian and Chinese fleets. Now, I'm not trying to put them up on a pedestal, but they do have certain ships, and they have certain advantages. And two of those are their ice and their navies. Their navies now, Chinese Navy is now the largest navy in the world, and that includes these icebreaker ships. Russia, I don't know how many they have, but again, between one of them, I think both of them have more than we do. And if you combine them, if they really were to team up, the Arctic would definitely have, a strategic kind of advantage. Especially, I'm surprised we only have two of these crazy big icebreakers. These ships are really, really fascinating, by the way. If you haven't seen one of these work, I'm pretty sure they changed the ballasts or something, if that's what you call it. I'm not a sailor, but they make the ship basically rise up and then smash down onto the ice and crack it. They have a special hole that actually goes down and smashes the ice. They're saying, and of course they have to put this into everything, they say the great change of the world is melting the ice and making the paths more accessible. Says the trip comes amid increasing concerns about military activity in the Arctic, where the change is making waterways more accessible. So, if you have an opinion or if you have info, let us know. Either email us in the description down below, or if you have video or anything that may pertain to tonight's show, make sure to go to marfooglenews.com/play-my-video. That's again, marfooglenews.com/play-my-video. All right, and then before we move on to Xi releases third quarter GDP results after President Xi Jinping secured third term in power, which, by the way, we told you that they were going to not release those indefinitely. I believe that is the same one, right? That's the one that they were not going to release? Yeah, so after he secured his term, they released it. Before we talk about that, I do want to remind you, if you haven't already, make sure to go over and check out EMP Shield. The reason why we have this as an affiliate is because we believe that this will possibly save lives and get a lot of people home or to wherever they need to get after an EMP or a CME happens. Remember that CMEs will happen. If we get a Carrington-level event in the next few years, we're in trouble because our grid is outdated and it is vulnerable. Right now, if a Carrington-level event happened, which it will, it's just a matter if we're protected by not and our grid is updated, that would knock out almost all of our grid, and then you're stuck. It would also possibly fry devices, fry cars, fry all sorts of things. What EMP Shield does, and what they've done for DOD, DHS, and now on the Dempsey team helping protect the Texas grid, is they make a device that grounds the signal in less than 500 trillionths of a second before it's able to fry your car, fry your motorcycles, your boats, your generators, even your home. You can actually wire one in that will protect within 250 linear feet of where it is wired in. So basically covering most normal size houses. This device is very attainable right now. Again, go over to marfooglenews.com/EMP. You will get $50 off, which is our grandfather discount per device. So if you have 4 cars that you're trying to outfit or a whole family that you want to protect their cars, this is a great deal. Plus, it stacks on top of all of their sales. So if they're running something, it will run concurrent. Then you'll get $50 off plus whatever they're doing. Go over to marfooglenews.com/EMP. It's 100% American made. It's a veteran-owned business. And again, these guys are really amazing. Anybody that's purchased from them knows their customer service and their family-oriented values. Again, it is a great, great company. So again, go over to marfooglenews.com/EMP. All right, and then Dex, let's see here. So they said indefinitely, and the more and more over the last couple of years, I've learned that indefinitely doesn't always mean forever. There's been a lot of things like this, oddly enough, where they say they're indefinitely not doing something, and then it happens. Now it seems that they've actually released these numbers. So what happened?
You know why now? It was clear why they were holding them back, because this event was happening that culminated over the weekend where Xi took his position again as the leader of the CCP. They didn't want these numbers to be out in advance of that. For a couple of reasons. One, maybe they didn't think the numbers were as good as they should be, and they didn't want that to have a negative effect. And 2, they didn't necessarily want it to be a potential reason for him not to get his position, or at least that's the person in power himself, how he chose it, right? So the numbers aren't as good. They're, I think, only 3.5% or 3.9% in the third quarter, which is comparing it to that same quarter of last year. The real trick is I think they're trying to reach this 5.5% for the whole year, and it doesn't actually look like it's going to happen. So this is kind of a negative thing, and I think we'll talk a little bit about how the market reacted in a moment. But this, to me, we knew they were holding it back for a reason. We didn't know how long, but obviously they were doing it for political, so to speak, reasons. And now that he's back in, he's got his power again. It doesn't matter. He can release the numbers.
Yeah, it was pretty obvious, and I'm surprised when they do this. It's not obvious enough to where if the negative that came from releasing it, I'm surprised the negative from not releasing it isn't the same thing. It's like common sense. If they're not releasing it for some odd reason and they always release it, it's kind of like, well, it's right before he secures that third term. Didn't it really matter in the first place? I mean, obviously most people thought that they were bad, but I don't know. It may play into a bigger kind of narrative that there's so much. When they say 4D chess, the more that you get into this stuff, you understand what they mean. It's kind of like rock, paper, scissors, trying to see what somebody's going to do, ahead of time. If that kind of makes sense, like if somebody does scissors, then you know that next they are probably thinking you're going to do rock, so then they do paper, but then you account for that, and then you try to do scissors because you think that they're counting ahead. It's like that, and right now, there's a ton of that going on, and it is so advanced. And you have to realize these governments of the world, they have think tanks, and they have people, thinking 40 steps ahead and then doing things right now based on 40 steps ahead that haven't even happened yet. And as normal civilians, we just kind of go, oh, the headline says that, so it's got to be that. You have to realize that all of these narratives and everything else, they have whole teams of people coming up with stories to guide you in a certain narrative. It's incredible the power they have over information and how they are able to manipulate it to make people do what they want. And once you wake up, that it's hard to go back to sleep again. You start seeing it, and that's what makes us even more prone to thinking everything is crazy, because we just can't see things the same way anymore. We think everything is a conspiracy, It's extremely hard not to when you have looked at the common sense of things and seen how many things have been absolutely BS. It's really hard for all of you. I know everybody is, can't even sit and have a conversation with your friends because they just don't get it. If they did, they would probably be depressed for the rest of their life. And I think that's why people don't want to know. Hong Kong stocks suffer worst single-day rout since 2008 as Xi consolidates power. It said the U.S. listed China's ETFs into double-digit losses. It said that the Hong Kong stock suffered the worst single session since the 2008 financial crisis after Xi Jinping tightened his grip on power. Remember, that was when we had the huge bubble and, what some called the depression during the recession and the housing bubble and everything else. We're seeing these kind of numbers again. Now, but, of course, this is their country. It says the Hang Seng was down, or plus 0.40%, ended more than 6% lower to a 13-year low, with tech giants including JD.com, Baidu, and Tencent and Alibaba, which are the huge Chinese companies, it says dropping between 11% and 13% each. It says American depository receipts of Chinese companies also tumbled, as did China-themed ETFs. It says the U.S. dollar rallied against the yuan, with the greenback rising against the offshore yuan to 7.31. It says the local Shanghai Composite Index fell a less dramatic 2%. Over the weekend, the 69-year-old Xi secured his third term as General Secretary of the Communist Party, and reporters captured video of former Xi President Hu Jintao getting escorted out of the closing ceremony. 4 of the 7 standing committee members were replaced, all of whom are at least 60 years old. So, obviously, this has had reverberations. By the way, that's the second time I used it. I don't know why I'm saying reverberations tonight, but I think it's my word of the day. Maybe it was on my toilet paper. I don't know, which, I've stocked up on just in case. Dex, what do you think about this huge kind of drop? It's kind of expected.
Yeah, well, this is the point. Like, they released the numbers, and obviously he was placed into power again on Saturday or Sunday it was. So this is the Monday effect, and this is why they didn't want this to come out. If this had come out Thursday or Wednesday last week or Monday of last week, they could have had this huge, horrible news going into his reelection, right? So he didn't want that. So having all this come out after he secured power was obviously an orchestrated plan on his part, because this is, and it's funny that this article, this author is saying it's because he was put in power. I tend to think it's probably more along the lines of looking at what the economic data is showing, more so than just him being in power, although they go hand in hand, right? The economic data has gotten to where it is because he was in power. So if he's going to be in power longer, people are going to have less faith in it. But I go back to, this is, the market talking, and I don't necessarily say the market meaning, you and I think it's more of the people in power with the monster money market that control things. This is their positionings and what they're doing. This is the media talking. And it goes hand in hand with all of the messaging that we've been showing you, even just in today's show, let alone it's all been culminating and building up to this bigger, sort of rolling wave of anti-Xi commentary or not commentary, but reporting and events and news that's coming out of our media. And so I go back to, where are we with this? Why is it being programmed this way? Why is it being pushed this way, if nothing else than to drive a sentiment around it?
As far as all of the market stuff that is going to happen, I've actually been watching a couple good channels. I'm actually going to try to get one of them on. It's this financial expert I watch. I don't want to shut him out until I can, because I might surprise you guys with a really awesome guest. But again, there are some really great channels out there. Obviously, I'm no expert in the financial side of things. I'm no financial advisor. Neither is Dex. But right now, there are, a lot of things that you could be doing with your money as far as diversifying. And obviously, the world is kind of crapping out right now. So a lot of people are getting very nervous about the markets. I would highly recommend that you spread things out. That is my simpleton advice. Dex, why don't you cover the North and the South and exchanging these warning shots? I talked about this on my video as well. but there's been more. It's been going back and forth, and this is a hot point and a flashpoint for the world. If if North and South Korea go to conflict, it's definitely going to pull more people in.
Certainly, we have had now a handful of these issues between NK and SK. We've talked about the shelling. I think we reported in our last show that there was 10,000 cannons in NK that were pointed that can go up to 60 miles into SK. And they were firing off, 20, 30, hundreds of these mortars, you want to call them that, or munitions that are in the cannons into the waters, into the disputed territory waters where they shouldn't be. And they were doing it to provoke. So now what happened was a ship had an NK ship had come into a territory where it shouldn't. It violated the sea boundary. And again, this is all they're testing, like test a little bit, push a little here, push a little there, just like we saw Xi do with Taiwan. So NK pushes a ship down in, and SK has to then fire warning shots, to then which NK turns around and fires their own warning shots back. So you can see how quickly warning shots could easily turn into real shots. And if that happens, it's going to get real quick at the DMZ between NK and SK. So, this has been a long, term hot spot, so to speak, even though things have been relatively calm for many years. It is not unfathomable to think that it can't jump up quickly. We've reported over the years the occasional errant, firing across the line, stuff like that. It just sort of one-offs here and there. And they can usually write it off as, maybe somebody was just doing something bad on their own. But these are military ships. When this kind of stuff happens, it's not just the renegade, popping off a shot across the border. So this could get real quick if it continues to escalate at the pace it is right now.
And we specifically said all it would take is one of their ships, say with 5 or 10 people on it, and that gets destroyed, and that gets people involved. Same with the U.S. or any other country. If one of those countries ends up doing an active war, it pulls it in and starts things off very fast. So that's why we're paying attention to it. If you have any information on this or anything else that pertains to the show, let us know. Email us down in the description below. We are taking tips. Again, please give us any kind of news that you have that might be insider information. I would love to hear it. Again, we try to verify all of it, so please email us, adam@marfooglenews.com or dex@marfooglenews.com. All right. And then the U.S. has deployed its Army's 101st Airborne Division. We talked about this in my video on the channel yesterday. This was a big story. Now, one thing I kind of went through, because I didn't have the message in front of me. Now, I did mention that message we got from Foogle Fam, and we tried to look at it as if maybe this person heard something through their friend. And again, I wasn't trying to offend that person that sent that in. They were saying that somebody they knew said directly, and they were directly involved, saying that the 101st was actually deployed to UKR, not to the border, but inside the border, right? Dex, are you there?
Yes, I'm here. I'm sorry. My button didn't work. So the report was that they thought they were being deployed inside. Now it's easy, in my opinion, for someone to say, I'm going over to UKR, but in reality, they're going to the border on the other side, where the NATO troops are. So and this was sort of, like you said, potentially the game of telephone, in the sense that you've got, one person said, another person said that person said this is what was happening. I don't know. I don't remember the number of people. I think it was a family member that was one other person. It wasn't that far related. But the point being, we have the news. The news is here. The news is telling us that we're actually putting this unit, which has never been deployed in 80 years, right on the border and ready to go. This is a go time team. This is not, this isn't just another exercise.
Yeah, and that's why we wanted to warn you that that information might have been the game of telephone, but it also may be, we might find out later that that is the case. We're giving you the official information here. We're not telling you that they're deployed in UKR, but we did want to let you know that we got that information. And if, people could say, well, people should know that. I think that is something people should know. If the U.S. 101st Airborne Troop Division, if that is deployed in UKR, that's a huge deal. That's giant. But we looked at that and said, it might not even be that person. That military member saying that they could have said they think they're going there or whatever. But this was before this came out officially. This was before this story came out. So we didn't have confirmation of it. So just wanted to let you know that if there is a tiny, tiny possibility that maybe there is or maybe there isn't. But the official news is that they have been deployed to the border. And this is something that hasn't been deployed in 80 years. So if the similarities between this era right now and WW2, they're growing a lot. Go ahead, Dex.
Well, I was going to say, at some point, if this goes to the next level where we do cross in, you can get, the story becomes true, because then this is the team of many, but they are one of the most important teams, and they're right on the edge of the border. So it will be true at some point if we actually get into the conflict, and just crossing that border would be a huge. And I promise you that the other side is watching. They don't. It's not like they're sitting around with tin cans and string, communicating back. They have technology. They can see what's happening. They have satellites. They have lots of other things, just like we do. So they know if we're, if we moved a significant number of troops across the border, they're going to know the minute it happens, and we'll probably see and probably start getting reports when that goes down.
Yeah, anything that you end up seeing, it's not like the opposite side aren't going to know that before we do. They're not going to go, "Oh, we found out from a YouTube channel." If we're reporting it, both sides know it. It just hasn't been told to the public yet. And that's what's sad, is the public is going to find out last about anything regarding this. And in a lot of cases, that's OPSEC, that's Operation Security. You gotta have you have to have confidential things going on to do that way. But if there's stuff spreading like that, if there's huge groups being deployed and things like that, then people are going to find out, and they're going to find out pretty quickly. So I guess we will know within the next week. I just wonder if that person knows that they're going to the border first, then they're going to head in. If you look at all the simulations, if you look at all of the different kind of war game scenarios, all of them involve, one, Poland, and two, them going in through the border and having this division kind of a part of it. So like, a year ago or even 5 years ago, when you see these infographic kind of shows like, what if, how would it happen if it did? They all involve not only this, but the border of this happening and going in through where they're basically going now. It's I wouldn't say it's predictive programming. It's like it's strategic. It's where they need to be if they were going to go into the country, and that's what's kind of freaky about this. Right now, I would highly suggest. On a side note, I know that a lot of this stuff is very stressful. If this does stress you out, you might want to actually take a break from this kind of information. The main point of all of this is to keep you guys updated, and that is our job. You are coming here for information. But if this kind of stuff stresses you out, I see the group of people that say, oh, they're just trying to scare people. People are voluntarily watching us. They're all adults, and they can decide what they want to watch. But at the same time, for those of you that, can't stand this stuff, if you don't like scary movies, don't watch scary movies. And I say that because I really do want people to understand and self-reflect and look, like, is this freaking me out? Maybe I shouldn't be watching this kind of content. I think that right now, myself, I would rather be in the know than be hit in the side of the head or hear an air raid siren out of nowhere and not know it at all what's going on. Which we wouldn't hear because they took them out because they're idiots. But if something did happen, I would like to be in the know about what's going on. Many of us, including myself, believe that WW3 has already started, that we're already in a world war, and that we just have not been pulled in yet. Just like WW2 and WW1, there were always these big events that pulled us in. Big events that are basically an excuse for us to go over there if our people get hurt. These guys being so close to the border, they could accidentally catch some accidental stuff, and then we're in a full-fledged, world conflict. Not to mention we're watching Xi and Vlad and everything they're both doing, and we're watching the Middle East because their allies, are all doing crazy stuff right now. Almost all of Vlad's allies have called into UKR and said, get out. This is something that if you only watch one show a week, you might not know, but they're telling to evacuate UKR. It's not like before when they said, it might get bad, you should leave. This is the enemy saying to leave. And that's a big deal. So this is getting really, really, really escalated very quickly. And the more that's deploying, it's harder for people to kind of go, oh, nothing's happening. So I hope you do talk to your friends and family. Try to go about it the best way ever. Don't pull in politics. Don't pull in all sorts of extra stuff because then they'll just shut down. You should be talking about, I actually have a video. Dex, did I send you that video? There's a video a gentleman talks about what you would actually need for, kind of, it's better to have tools and the ability to do things rather than the actual stuff. He actually makes an argument of why instead of a bunch of ammo and bang bangs, to have the tools to be able to make traps. I forget what his name is. It was a really great video. It was actually really informational. Some of you may already know what I'm talking about. Dave Canterbury at the 2015 NPS Expo in Louisville, Kentucky. I'll send it to Dex, but I thought it was actually a very interesting thing, and there was a couple parts that are hidden in that video of his speech that are really smart points, and I think all of you guys would benefit from watching it. As far as what is happening right now, it's not getting better, and this isn't here to scare you. It's here to inform you and let you make better decisions about what is going on right now. So. And then before we talk about Vlad's threats, worry UKR's NATO allies as sign of Russian desperation. I do want to remind you, if you don't have a backup for power, we have a really great option. In fact, I believe it is one of the best. It is what runs my studio. It is my backup plan. It is my plan B as far as power goes. The Flex 1500 made by Energy is one of the best solar generators on the market. Now, as far as gas generators that you may have or you may be looking into, I think both are great, but gas-powered generators are loud. Anybody can hear that you have one, and they require you to store fuel and gasoline, which on top of it being super expensive, it's also dangerous to keep around. As far as a solar generator, all you need is your panels. They're plug and play. You don't have to be an expert. You just need to know how to plug one cord into a unit and push the power button. That's pretty simple, as simple as it gets. This is silent. It does not make any noise. It makes less noise than one of those small personal fans. And it can produce the power to keep you going. As far as this one, it is awesome because it's modular. It's set up like Lego bricks. In fact, the input and output of each battery, you can stack. So you can put 3 batteries on top of each other and then put the head unit on top. And all of a sudden you've got 3 times the power. And again, you can actually add in a mod that allows it to take 3 times the input of solar panels. So instead of a 4-panel setup, you could actually plug in 12 if you get that mod. But most people are probably going to get the head unit and 1 battery, and that is enough to get many people through pretty much anything. As far as power, you just basically wait until the sun comes out every day and you've got power. That's what's so great about these. As far as longevity, if you keep these charged up, if you want to set up multiple batteries, you can actually extend it up to 96 batteries. It's one of the best modular systems too because of how it's made to stack. There's other competitors that stack, but each one there's no connection there, so you have to put a huge cable out the sides, which doubles the footprint. All of a sudden, you've got like a 4-foot wide setup there, when you might not have that. The less that you carry, the better, and the less space you take up, the better. This also is just an amazingly put together product. It's going to last decades. If you take care of it, it could last longer than you do. Again, go over to marfooglenews.com/energy. Make sure to use the code Marfoogle. You'll get upwards of $170 off on certain packages, because you can get packages with solar panels. You can get it with mods, with superchargers, all sorts of stuff. But that also helps us and gives you a discount. So you're getting something that you'll be able to keep long past when YouTube is here. And you're going to be able to support, of course, independent media at the same time. That's marfooglenews.com/energy, INERGY. The links are down in the description below. Thank you for supporting us. Also, check out their Kodiak X2 all-in-one built-in generator there, and also their LT. Their LT is their smaller version to get you through a storm, keep your phones charged, maybe plug in a lamp or something like that. All right, and then Dex, let's talk about Putin's threats. Obviously, people are desensitized to his threats because he does a lot of them. He is saber-rattled for years, but now we actually have action going along with it. So now people are concerned.
Exactly. And in this case, we're dealing with, I think this is one of the researchers from the UK, not an official, but somebody from a background in studying this. And they basically, I don't know if it's a think tank or not, what doesn't matter. Their position on this is like, look, what he has done, if you look at the numbers, you've got the 300,000 troops that are coming in, but it takes a month or more to get them trained. They've looked at the numbers of the types of missiles that have been used, even the recent barrage that we reported on over the weekend towards all of the electrical systems that they've been trying to harm. You know, the supplies of that particular missile they're using are running lower, based on the numbers that they had and the numbers that they've been tracking that have been used. They're obviously getting lower, and they don't necessarily have the means to produce some of that. We know a lot of that stuff. They were reliant on chips from outside their country, and those are not going to be going into their country due to, the sanctions. So there's a lot of these things that are starting to add up that according to this person sort of shines a light on this notion that they're getting cornered. They're getting cornered, and again, this is their opinion, that Vlad is getting cornered, and it's making these threats that are coming out, whether it be nuke or the dam that was allegedly wired up. All of these different things are sort of acts or signs of desperation. At least that's what they're saying. Now, we've talked quite a bit about, which level of equipment are they using? Are they just, running through their supplies, their lower level equipment because they're holding back on their good stuff? Are they running through, the troops that, and holding back on certain troops that they don't want to send in just yet? And that's why maybe they're bringing in and conscripting 300,000 people or more. So, there's a flip side to this equation that I think, it's interesting to look at both perspectives. And I don't know that any one is necessarily right. And I don't think that we are ever going to get the true story. It's our job to sort of do our best at trying to take in as much information we can from all angles and try to understand what's going on. But at the end of the day, we know there's a conflict going on there, and it's going to escalate. Whether it's, again, organic or orchestrated, there is going to happen. There are things that continue to happen. The people that live there, it happens to. The people that go in there, it happens to. The equipment that we manufacture and ship over there, it goes there. The people here that build it, if we send our own troops and put them on the sidelines ready for something, if that something happens, it's going to affect them, and it's going to affect our families. And it's going to affect the families of the people that live in the other border countries around Europe. So in addition to the people that are already being harmed in the middle of this conflict right now.
Sorry about that. I got to fix my mic here. And Dex, think about this. So they are using first of all, the fact that they started conscripting so early, people say, it's because they're on the last line of people and that so many people have perished that they're conscripting people off the street. I'm sorry, but common sense tells me that they were conscripting people because they're saving their good soldiers, their most trained people for a bigger conflict. Think about this. They pulled people off the street first. Instead of waiting until their entire military, was dead, they're pulling people off the street to take this out because they're looking down the line. They're saving their their real veterans, the guys who've been in the military that are super trained up, the super good guys. And by the way, we know Russia and China have good militaries. They have good special units. You can't say they're not. Like if you have the opinion that they're just like crap, then you're not, you don't realize they've been through wars. It's not like a country that's never been in a conflict. All of these, major powers have been in conflicts. They have actual experience. All of those guys, if they're conscripting now, and if they started conscripting so early, they were sending in guys with 100-year-old rifles. It's like they're sending out the crap. They're trying to save the best for last. It's like they're holding on to the really good stuff, and they're getting rid of the 14-day-old food. They're giving that out first, and then they're going to save the hors d'oeuvres for last. What this is I think it is, and this is my opinion, and I rarely tell you what I really think it is. I think they are sending in all of the crappy stuff, all of the conscripts in first, because this isn't the main war they want. This is not the conflict they see coming. I can only imagine what he and Xi are saying, but look at Xi's end of this. They are looking at a two-front conflict with the U.S. and our allies, and they are looking at a huge, bigger picture. Xi taking Taiwan, Vlad taking UKR, and then further. And, of course, we get involved later on. It's going to happen. That's my opinion. And then they are going to have their real military and their real gear, their real tech, all of the stuff that we know they've had. We know they have high-tech stuff. Why aren't they using a ton of it? And if you say, well, I heard on the news says that all of their advanced tanks are this, or they're out of ammo. I'm sorry. They've used their military wartime stuff. They are producing all sorts of ammo. They're producing missiles. I don't believe that they're out of ammunition or missiles or this, and the chip shortage is affecting them, because while this is all going on, Xi literally shut down his electronic stuff, and they're probably helping manufacturing chips for their missiles and for their stuff. They're probably behind the scenes. They're No Limits partners. They're producing all the stuff they need. That's why they're shut down, is because they're helping them. I think that I don't think they'll have a problem with that, and I think that this is they're going to bring in their real military when we get involved. That's my opinion. If you disagree, let me know yours. I'd love to hear it. Poke holes in my theory. I would love to change my mind, but I think that we are going into WW3. I think that they know in a little bit here we're all going to be getting involved, and I think Vlad is not the main part of this. I think Xi is. And then Vlad's latest nuclear warning disguises the Kremlin's military setbacks. It says, in a series of calls with Western military leaders over the weekend, Vlad's defense minister Sergei Shoigu warned about a supposed dirty boom boom and once more raised the prospects of a nuclear escalation, despite the Kremlin having been repeatedly warned against doing so by Western leaders. On Monday, U.S. Joint Chiefs of Staff Chairman General Mark Milley spoke with General Valery Gerasimov, his Russian counterpart, about the dirty boom boom threat, a potential sign of concern in Washington over what the threat is intended to convey and to whom. The Russian Foreign Ministry's short readout of Shoigu's call with British Defense Secretary Ben Wallace similarly describes concerns about a possible provocation by UKR with the use of a dirty boom, boom, boom. Shoigu made the same sort of warnings to officials in France and in Turkey. He also spoken twice to U.S. Defense Secretary Lloyd Austin since Friday. Something big is in the works. No matter what side you believe in, it's like these calls are, they're prefacing if a big event happens, then they have either set it up so where if it does happen, then they go, oh, well, we already told you it was them. And if you look back in the past, when they have done the same thing, when they've said, we think that they're going to do this, that thing that they say they thought was going to happen happens. Same thing happened on our end when we thought that they were going to invade and it was going to happen in 2 to 3 weeks. Remember all of that? And then they purposely had like a meeting with Xi, and then they waited a couple more weeks, but then it did happen. So when that information came out, they actually called out play by play what they were going to do, but it was a couple weeks delayed. So I don't know what's going to happen here, but this, if it does happen, this is the kind of thing that pulls everybody in. And I hope it doesn't. But this is what preppers are looking at. They're looking at this scenario and going, okay, this is one of the things that could pull us in. We look at all of the things that could pull us into a full-fledged World War III, and this is one of them. Whether it's a Fantastic Freddy or not, doesn't matter to me. The headline on the next day after that says, U.S. has joined the conflict. We have declared war. That is what we are all waiting for. And just like in Japan in WW2, that was a conflict everybody knew was going to happen. This is a conflict everyone thinks is going to happen. I don't see how it can go anywhere else at this point. Dex, what do you think?
It certainly it seems like the point is here, and it's got to be like right around the corner or any day now. It feels like, at least with the rhetoric that's flying, for us to believe that, you know, the number 2 military in the world couldn't accomplish, you know, a mere fraction of what it set out to do. I mean, that just sort of says, well, maybe anybody should just go steamroll in there into Vlad's country and just, you know, be done with it, right? I mean, that's what at least that's what they're wanting us to believe, and that's what they're trying to say, is that they just have nothing left, and they don't have any strength outside of their nukes, and that's kind of alarming in many different ways when you think about that message. That's my opinion.
Well, and it's not media. It's not like the tabloids in their country. It's not their tasks, you know, the talking heads on their news saying this, suggesting it, because that's just like somebody on Fox saying, I think this is going to happen. This is their defense ministry calling other countries directly saying, I'm worried about this. What information is he basing it off? If it is 10% true, that's a bad deal. That's a huge deal if this is at all true, or it's a setup and it's strategic, it's 4D chess, and it's getting prepared for something big. At the same time, as they call for this, what if they called before this, they called their allies and said, hey, we think this is going to happen. You need to get your people out of there. India, China, all of the Middle East countries, they've called now and they've said, get out of there. They're having their embassies emptied out. They're evacuating, not pulling their people out. They're evacuating places. They're taking women and children over borders. They think something big is going to happen. And the reason why we don't believe them is what I said earlier. Once you've woken up, it's hard to believe anything. But I will say this, you don't have to believe it. I would just say have a backup plan just in case it is true. Because at this point, we've seen so many things that they say are true, and we don't know if it's true or not, and you don't have to. But you can look at I like what Survival Game, Ilea, said, one of my mods. She commented on a video. I just saw it, and I forgot to tell you that. But you commented on a video talking about channels. It was channels of all sorts, and she said, if you prepare for the most likely, or if you prepare for the least likely scenarios, then you'll also be prepared for the most likely scenarios. And I thought that was a great comment, and it's absolutely true. It's not like it's not common sense. But if you're prepared for, the end of the world, you're most definitely going to be prepared for, say, a storm that knocks your roof off, or a tornado that tears your roof off. You're going to be prepared for an earthquake. You're going to be prepared for a blackout because of a technical difficulty. These are all things that come along with preparing for the worst. You hope for the best, and you're set up for all the small things as well. Right now, this isn't small. This would be WW3 causing stuff. So this, at this point, maybe over the last few years, all of the things that led up to it may not be something that everyone should be paying attention to, but this is. But great comment, Survival Game. By the way, make sure to thank all your mods. And just a reminder, you can go over to marfooglenews.com/friends. We actually have a really awesome setup where all of our mods who help the community by staying down there and keeping it a peaceful place and chat with, 4,000, 5,000, 6,000 people down there. it's a fun gig. Let's say that. But they are working hard down there, so make sure to go and thank them by subscribing. Bones, CJ Blaze, Jammer1, Lisa R. Hall, PNW Affliction, Rip Curl Readiness, RJL Harris, Survival Game, and Trinity, Red or Blue Pill, Hi-Ho, Kermit the Frog here. Most of these have done really great videos lately, so make sure to go check them out. And then, of course, make sure to check out the Friends List. Alaska Prepper, all day, every day preparedness. Great guy. I want to have him on the show here soon. Donut Factory, Global Witness, Jacob Israel, all great people. Joseph Newhouse, Justin True, very awesome guy from Hawaii. He has given us amazing information based on Hawaii. He actually was with his brother right off the coastline when that Russian ship came. He knew before anybody else. That was really great. So make sure to go check those guys out. They're all amazing people. All right, and then thank you, LAPD SWAT. The Art of War, when strong, appear weak. Don't forget, Vlad is martial artist who understands combat. Yes, he does. He also was KGB. The guy knows manipulation tactics, too. That's something to think about with all this. It could be a manipulation tactic with their calls. And then Stephen McMahon, as time goes on, I become more, not less, convinced that the whole UKR thing has been a pantomime, a ballet. The leaders are playing roles assigned. Yeah, well, look into the whole administration there. Kenny Crowder, Adam, you've scarred me, scarred me for life. LOLs. Be safe, everybody. Love your way. Kenny Crowder, thank you for. I think you've made almost every show, so thank you. And if you haven't, you've stopped by in one way or another. So thank you for your comments too. Jaleesa H, thank you for your support. Thank you for supporting Independent. Jade Hansen says, crazy stuff everywhere. Syria popping off. 101st in Poland. Tons of troop movement all over the USA for reasons unknown at this point. Not good. Jade, absolutely, absolutely correct. Christina Cromley, my husband and I love watching you, and Dex put out a great show. We've been devoted fans since the beginning. Christina Cromley, thank you so much for actually popping in and saying so. Thank you. And again, thanks for all the silent people that are watching the replay, that leave comments after the show. I read them, and I think, man, there's so many people that watch after the fact. Thank you so much, and I'm sorry you couldn't make the live. Let's see here. And then UKR slams Vlad's dirty boom boom claims as dangerous lies. So they have essentially said that these, which, by the way, if they do call out something like this, and if there was any truth to this, now they've put them on the spot. If they did get information that wasn't supposed to go out until after it happened, then they may stop that event and it may not happen. Dex, when you think of this, if there was some truth to it, did they, they could have busted them out. People would go, well, what would be the motivation of doing one of these dirty boom booms in your own country? Well, what's the motivation behind any of these events? It escalates things. It gives the world more reason. If it was the case where, Zelensky is saying, hey, we need help, but nobody's helping, nobody's jumping in. We want to, do a pre-strike on them, nuclear. If you wanted to convince them to do so, Zelensky has basically sat there and said, well, don't wait until they've already crossed our border. Get over here now, strike them first. And he said that before they even invaded. He even said, then retracted his statements about basically attacking them first. Now, if he says, if they did something like that, it could draw in the rest of NATO. That NATO could find that, now that they're doing dirty stuff like this, that they need more help, and they might go in, and then it might involve all of us. If this is the case, Dex, if they're dangerous lies or if they got caught up in something or hand in the cookie jar, either way, they're saying it's not true.
At this point, absent complete documented evidence of everything being created and identified who did it and why, we'll never know. The way this has been stated, it's going, it's either side pointing the finger at either way. And if it ever does come to fruition, we won't know who did it except for who they tell us. And so, it could easily be calculated that Vlad was going to do it, but then blame it on the other side, just as it could be calculated the other way. It's, we'll never know. We're just going to, all you can do now is just take it for what it's worth. And that's what we do. We're reporting on it. We're commenting on it. We have no idea of knowing anything other than who's saying it, and then asking the question, why are they saying it?
To me, it's like the rock, paper, scissors. It could be, I think they're going to do this, and they think I'm going to do this, so I'm going to do this before, and they have to think about tricking each other or something. I don't know. But there's many more countries, there's more people in charge that, we don't even know their names. There's all sorts of parties involved. There's world groups. There's resource groups. There's resources at stake here. There's our future. Our future is at stake with all of this. Our lives, everyone's life will be changed. I mean, think about if WW2 was won by Germany. I mean, just think about how things could change for all of us if we get involved and possibly lose or possibly win. It could be worse. It could be worse either way. And then Iranian missiles could cause major issues for UKR's air defenses, military expert says. So, by the way, their drones are now involved. Drones have been involved for weeks now, and they've talked about how even their soldiers are. Now, more and more, this country is getting pulled directly into this conflict. They get pulled in, then is UKR going to have more of their allies or the people that are backing them up, them getting pulled in? This is turning into more of a world conflict. As far as the missiles go, this is one of the countries that has been threatening with all sorts of stuff. These missiles are equipped with submunitions warheads, which detach during their final approach. It says, as far as I know, no one has conducted tests in terms of the capability of modern air defense systems, such as the IRIS-T or NASAMS, to intercept these missiles. It will be a problem for us. Based on previous years, such missiles, range missiles, are extremely difficult to intercept because the flight time is very short and the air defense reaction must be instantaneous. There's almost no time to launch an interceptor missile. Iran has agreed to supply surface-to-surface ballistic missiles to Vlad, Reuters reported on October 18th. And it says that UKR's Air Force Command spokesman Yurli later said that UKR still doesn't have sufficient air defense capacity to deal with this type of missiles. So once these go into play, which again, why aren't Vlad's? Vlad has high-tech missiles, and it's like they're getting it from somebody else. I think they're saving the best for last. I think they're saving a ton of their best for last, because otherwise we would see half of UKR hit with. Why are they using their drones instead of their own stuff? It's you get this idea that they barely have anything. Go ahead, Dex.
Okay, who has the capability to defend against this? Who is the primary country that worries about the I country? Okay, they have their ongoing conflict. It's the standoff that's always happening between them. So I promise you, we could probably look it up right now, that part of this is UKR is saying we need the Iron Dome because that's who it comes from. And this is a perfect excuse to say, hey, please bring the Iron Dome in, because now the I country is using technology that nobody can prevent, but we know the is country has that technology. And so bring in the Iron Dome. We need it, please. I guarantee you we could probably look right now and they're asking for it.
So then you have multiple proxies going on at that point. I mean, this is getting super, super convoluted, and it's going to get worse. There's no way around it at this point. So not looking grand right now. And then fears over Russian threat to Norway's energy infrastructure. I know we have viewers in Norway. Again, I have family in Norway, and I worry about what is going to go on if something really bad goes over there. Before we talk about that, I do just want to quickly remind you, if you do need long-term survival food, if you go through us, you'll help independent media, and you can stock up on MREs and, of course, 25-year shelf life food. Go over to marfooglenews.com/prep If you've been looking for this or didn't know how to reach it, it's in the description down below if you go to the website, or marfooglenews.com/prep. If you are slightly worried or any worried about this, or just want to have some just in case, they also have potassium iodide tablets, the iodine tablets, basically. They have those over there. So it's one of the few places. You can't get them from AliExpress anymore, which a lot of people were surprisingly getting them from them. They cut that off for some reason. But they have those. They have radios. They have all sorts of other gadgets. Their main thing, though, is their food. Their foods are packaged to last 25 plus years, freeze-dried foods, and packages that will basically keep you going. Also, they have the Alexa Pure Pro. Water filtration. It's a gravity-fed water filtration system. They have small ones. They have big ones. The big one is really an awesome deal because it is one of the best. It's comparable to a Berkey at a fraction of the cost, and it will do a whole lot of water in a short amount of time. All right, and then, so with Norway, it says Norwegian oil and gas workers normally don't see anything more threatening than North Sea waves crashing against the steel legs of their offshore platforms. But lately, they have noticed a more troubling sight: unidentified drones buzzing in the skies overhead. With Norway replacing Vlad's country as Europe's main source of natural gas, military experts suspect that the unmanned aircraft are Moscow's doings. They list espionage, sabotage, and intimidation as possible motives for the drone flights. The Norwegian government was sent warships, Coast Guard vessels, and fighter jets to patrol around the offshore facilities. Norway's National Guard stationed soldiers around onshore refineries that are also being buzzed by drones. Prime Minister Jonas Gahr Støre has invited the navies of NATO allies Britain, France, and Germany to help address what could be more than a Norwegian problem. So it might not just be Norway. It could be all of NATO. Precious little of the offshore oil that provides vast income for Norway is used by the country's 5.4 million inhabitants instead. It powers much of Europe. Natural gas is another commodity of continental significance. The value of Norwegian gas to Europe has never been higher, Ståle Ulriksen, a researcher at the Royal Norwegian Naval Academy, said. Quote, as a strategic target for sabotage, Norwegian gas pipelines are probably the highest value target in Europe. That then draws Norway into it. That brings troops there. That brings jets there. That brings everything there. Norway's, and by the way, it's like, the reason why this is even more important now is because of events like China stopping the sale of LNG to Europe. On top of all of the other events, it's like Xi is all of a sudden not selling LNG to them. There's a lot of things that are adding up right now. The writing is on our faces. It's no longer on the wall. And then, Dex, do you have anything to say about Norway before we move on?
Just thinking about the whole notion of retaliation or tit for tat. Given Nord Stream, I think anybody that is supplying right now is got to be a little nervous about what may or may not happen to them, right? If they think that Vlad may do something or look for an opportunity to do something, then it makes a lot of sense for anybody that's supplying European gas to be in the crosshairs.
And then, Dex, I was going to have you go over the Elon Musk stuff. Obviously, most of you know my opinion on Elon now. Go ahead.
Absolutely. So apparently he's being branded a psychopathic due to having no empathy by a leading psychologist. This is not us saying it. It's a leading psychologist saying it. That's the report. I want to make sure that's clear. But yes, that's the latest update. He always is getting something in the news, but apparently they've gone through and a leading psychologist has come out and said the way he has attracted certain types of people, the way he's done certain types of things, what he has done for, growing his businesses, et cetera, that he has, this, according to the psychologist, has psychopathic, tendencies and has no empathy. So that's some may say, oh, don't, no surprise there. And others maybe go, oh, that's kind of interesting. And then a lot of people probably go, well, how do you diagnose from the armchair. So for what it's worth, that's what they're saying.
And go check out one of our close friends, Jacob Israel, I believe has proven that Elon is actually watching his channel. So I just wanted to make sure that if Elon happened to have wandered over here, I'm not saying you're psychopathic or I have kids. Please. I am in no way depressed. Moving on, make sure to go check out Jacob's more recent video about 3 days ago. Talks about it. The second it was happening, Elon was trolling him on Twitter. I mean, literally trolling him, and then deleted the tweets, which you go, oh, well, now they're deleted. There's proof. PolitiFact tweet or whatever has the tweets there. He has screenshots of what they were. It was symbols and everything directly based off of Jacob's video. It's nuts. It's not the first time. The burnt hair situation, and if you know what I'm talking about, if you watch his channel, you'll know. He posted a video and then content goes on his Twitter, and it's like, okay. And then he even posted it at 11:11. This stuff may sound crazy unless you know the full backstory, but it's too much to avoid. It's like, so Elon is possibly watching this group of channels, and that's freaky. So Elon, if you're watching, yeah, I like life. All right. And then thank you to several people over on DLive. Thank you so much. I appreciate that. Thank you for the support. Everybody that's keeping the DLive family alive. Scooby-Doo Right, Penny Lane 87. In fact, Scooby-Doo Right says, happy birthday, Penny Lane 87. Happy birthday, Penny Lane. Again, nice to have some birthdays in the house. If it's your birthday, let me know in the chat. Skyhouse, Renegade PD, Michelle K, I Love Jesus Forever, Big Fizz, Jeep 71, Yobi, thank you. Skyhouse, thank you for multiple times supporting over on DLive. And Michelle K, Vicky K, I don't think you're here tonight. I'm surprised. Vicky K, I hope you're doing well. DFW Jackie, let's see here. Kimbria, thank you. And looks like Darren, thank you for following. Lots of new subscribers. Thank you, everybody that just subscribed to the show. Unfortunately, I can't. It doesn't show me. I have to figure out why it doesn't show me all of the subscriptions lately. But thank you, everybody that's new here tonight. I know there's a lot of new people in the chat. Lots of new names. Thank you, mods, for keeping it held down there. Make sure to thank your mods. They're doing an awesome job. Jalisa H, thank you. Dangerous. Kokomo Joe, I believe I did get you earlier. I thank you so much for your support. Thank you for everybody that supports these shows. Be Real Beast, I hope it's Jay Bravo. Anyway, God bless. Andreas Binder, thank you for not only your comments here, but also your super thanks on the replays. What if G is helping with the dirt to create the distraction? Let's see here. To create the distraction for his island hopping. Oh, that's an interesting theory. And then Stephen McMahon. And then thank you for everybody that does the super thanks. Super thanks are basically a way to highlight your comment if you are a replay watcher. I think it's pretty cool because you can. They actually stick out. So thank you for those of you that have done that. Few of you people have popped over and done those on the last show. So thank you. It looks like Bones and Tubbs show. Thank you. It says great show and great callers. As always, said some of the reason for the Fent pouring in the country because of the opium West flooded dramatically in the past. This war is generational. Keep up the great work. Love you, fam. Thank you. And then Jonathan Elwood. Let's see here. Sorry, but heroin has always come from Afghanistan region. The poppy plant is very hard to grow in any other weather ecosystem. Well, yeah, and then we pulled out of there, and then it's like it disappeared. And now everything's coming from G. Andres Binder, thank you. 2 different shows, says Danke Shay. Tammy Johnston, a couple shows ago. Lori Oder and Sandy Langer, Simply Pony. Haven't seen you in a while. Mystery School, nice to see you over there on the Super Thanks. And then Billy Leather, Mark Houston, Bunny Ha, Christy Rozelle, and Razan. Dex, let's go over the web only. It looks like we have just a ton of stuff going on over there.
Absolutely. Don't go anywhere. We got a lot more to cover. So marfugglenews.com, click on the thumbnail on the YouTube or on Rumble, open that description and click on the show notes link. It'll take you right here. Everything else that we couldn't get to, the rest of the story, there's a new name you probably haven't heard of. He's not that new because he's been in politics in UK for a while, but Rishi Sunak, who might become the next prime minister. That's what they're suggesting, but we'll find out as that expands. Interesting story coming out of UKR about a woman and what happened to her. It's just a piece about that. You take it for what it's worth. The political coverage is complete. We got all sides. T-Man going after DeSantis and others. Anderson Cooper getting ambushed, so to speak, in the CNN office and how he reacts. Of course, Kanye West is still in the news and probably will be for a while. His talent agency dropped him. The lawyer that we reported on last time that was working with him is no longer working with him. He lost a documentary, and surprisingly, Adidas has not come out and made a decision yet. And so we talked about this last week, but they have, still haven't decided, I guess, or made a decision. But a lot of people are pushing them. So that and so much more is available on marfugglenews.com, including Tucker and a few other things. So go check it out. marfugglenews.com, click on the thumbnail for the show, open up that description on YouTube, click on the show notes link. It'll take you right there.
Thank you, Dex. And to everybody else that has popped in tonight, thank you for everybody in the chat. For those of you that just popped in, thank you so much. Jonathan Ramos, Jimmy is nuts. Thank you. Says, great show, Marv. Piercing the Veil, Bernadette McMinn. We have Tommy Tomatier. We have Blowtorch Barbie. What's going on? Anthony North. Carl, hey, take a second and thank you to the vets that are in the house. If you're a vet, what is going on? How are you doing? The lifeboat is here. LW, Darth V, Trinity, Anna in the knots. Thank you, Trinity. Thank you for your attendance this week. I appreciate that. Same with you, Survival Game. Bones, wherever you're at. Thank you. Lisa R. Hall, of course, one of my favorite people. Go check out her channel. And, yeah, it's time for the shoutro. It's not an outro. It's not a shout-out. It's a shoutro. It's where I say thank you to the people that matter most, you.
It's a pure blood cell beat, Jordan, you know, Carissa Carradine, I Miss Jamie's, still more, DFW, Jackie, and the real low. Hey, now we declare for a real though. Island by the sea and Angel Webster, Susan Gates and everybody. James Paget on the George Washington.